What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Double Coverage. We hope you're still living, loving, and breathing sport. I am Dom with the Great Man Sauce, and we have another special guest, Rich, aka the Happy Collector. How you going, boys?
Hey, how you
How,
doing, man? How you
how are we,
doing, guys?
Doma? With glad to have Rich on today to have a chat about all things hobby, and yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be very fun.
Absolutely.
Hobby and a bit of content creating. Rich has got a massive following on TikTok and other social media platforms, so we will get around to chatting about that. But we'll dive straight into it, Rich.
Okay.
First question: when did you start collecting, and what type of cards do you collect?
So, I mean, if we really go way back, I can remember opening my first pack in 1989, Upper Deck Baseball. The foil packs looking for the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie. But I think like a lot of people in my generation, I think we paused, right? So I
Yeah.
collected up through high school, and then when I went away to college, I played football in college and drank probably a little bit too much beer in college and studied every once in a while in between. So I probably took breaks during that time. And the big guys when LeBron came out and so forth, certainly I try to pick those cards up here and there. But serious straight back into the hobby, I'd say a little bit over a decade now.
Perfect. And just sports cards, or do you delve into any TCG like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? Or do you have anything hidden away there, or just for a rainy day?
So I do have some Pokemon because I have an 8-year-old daughter. I have a
Yep.
4-year-old son. He doesn't care about that stuff yet, but my 8-year-old daughter likes Pokemon, so I buy that stuff to rip for fun with her. Outside of Charizard and Pikachu, I'm far from an expert. I know of the cards that you want to pull, but I'm definitely not the expert. Plus, my daughter wouldn't let me sell those cards even if I pulled them. So.
Yeah, makes sense. Completely understand. Uh, your content is fantastic, as I mentioned at the top of the show. When it comes
Well,
to
thank you.
content creation, TikTok, you have over 10,000 followers, which is awesome. What's the inspiration for your content?
It's weird. So I'm a big. Do you guys know who Gary Vee is
Yeah, yeah,
in your
yeah,
neck of? Okay, so
definitely.
I'm a big Gary Vee guy, and I think at the end of 2019, he started telling people, "Hey, you got to get on TikTok." And I'm like, I'll check it out. And once I first got on there, all I saw was a bunch of young kids like dancing around and singing. So I was like, I don't know if this is for me. This is kind of weird for me to be on this app. But I slowly watched more educational stuff come out. And as we got into the pandemic, the the interest in sports cards blew up. And what I started seeing from content creators was a lot of hype and not a lot of substance. And while, yes, you certainly absolutely can actually make a lot of money in sports cards, the idea of it being passive income that you can just trip your way through making money in a hobby that's been around forever started to annoy me. So I started trying to be that counter hype man and basically focus on Sports Card 101. And then from there, started trying to incorporate some videos that were educational and hopefully kind of fun. I used to do, well, this is how you ship. And then I started doing these a little more entertaining segments about what kind of ship is that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Things that kind of mix the two genres together so people would actually maybe watch a little bit longer than a couple seconds.
Very nice. Anything going forward? Any plans? Uh, any changes? Any new series coming to your TikTok platform? What's in store for your fans?
So I'm doing a lot more. One of the big things that I've been asked to do by a lot of people who I've connected with is to do more longer form content. So I'm now doing sipping and ripping with Rich, aka the Happy Collector, on YouTube. I just did my first video last week with the owner of Hybrid Grading Approach. a brand new, and you guys, I know you guys are familiar with them, a brand new grading company out there that's doing some really cool stuff. Next week, I have the owner of Loop the app, online streaming app for breakers and sports card sellers. So I'm trying to bring some valued content and introduce people to some of the newer players in the market, if you will, that I think are quite frankly innovating in the market.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say there's heaps of new technology and platforms coming out, revolving around cards and things, and I think this is going to be a big driver in keeping the market alive going forward.
Absolutely.
Having these new tech and apps and the likes, and now Card Ladder. I'm not sure if you've seen Card Ladder drop their app.
Yes.
And so we all know what a great platform they have. And yeah, it's exciting times going forward with all
Absolutely.
these new tech coming.
The other thing as well, just branching off of that, is John and I last night actually we were on a live stream, and then we talk about it a fair bit ourselves. But preserving the hobby in what is out there, I think the positive thing going forward for the hobby itself is the fact that we have great content creators like yourself and like Conrad. Conrad Sports Cards, Gary V. Or like we can preserve the hobby. Like when it dipped and it dropped away, social media wasn't a big factor in pushing out information about the cards and stuff onto the internet and through different avenues. So I think this is the thing that, as much as we talk about crashes, which we will ask you that question eventually about the great man that came out and made a few comments, but I think we're in a better position, with a better foundation than what we were 10 years ago. What are your thoughts on that?
So I hear a lot of people talk about, are we going into junk wax 2.0? And honestly, most people that ask me that, I feel didn't live through junk wax 2.0. I saw it, and cards literally were growing off trees. You couldn't go to a store that wasn't selling sports cards, and they never sold out. It was, that box is gone. Of course, we got more boxes in the back, and they bring some more boxes in the back. The production between 1987 and 1994, which is traditionally known as the junk wax era, some have said tens of billions. Some even estimate hundreds of billions of cards were produced in that time frame. We're seeing certainly mass production of cards now, but nothing in the likes of that. Additionally, back then there were no chase cards. So like I said, in '89, I'm looking for that Ken Griffey Jr. rookie. Everybody's looking for that. Now, that Griffey rookie out of that '89 product was actually not an easy pull. There's no guarantee if you buy a box, you're going to get that card. But there was no 1 of 15 version of that card. There was no chase cards. There were no autos, memorabilia patches, colored parallels. That stuff didn't exist. And a lot of that stuff was put into place to give that incentive to buyers and people in the hobby to quote unquote have chase cards to offset the possibility of, well, what makes these cards special from the next one?
Definitely. And we all saw it, and it started coming back where people wanted patch autos and jersey autos, or just a jersey card or a patch card. Mm-hmm. And no one really looked at inserts. And then we slowly have seen in the last 3 to 5 years, inserts making a slow rise to the point now where you know what it's like. It's just ridiculous. Everyone's chasing the insert card now, like a numbered insert card, more than they want a jersey card.
Yeah.
Patches are still sought after, but instead of a jersey card, it's like they pull a jersey, it's like that's a rubbish pull. We rather have the numbered to whatever it is, 15, 10, 5, 1 of 1 insert card.
Yep.
Because they do a good job on being creative and coming up with new ideas, but sometimes they do just pull back on and fall back on some of the old school designs and sets and just redesign it. Like if it ain't broke, like you don't need to fix it. As simple as that. So I reckon they've done a good job.
No, absolutely. And I'm still not a giant insert card guy. If they're numbered inserts or hollow or silver inserts, I have a little bit more appetite for them. I think the rise and fall in part with the straight jersey or memorabilia patch cards that don't, not the RPAs that have autos, but just straight patches, is they've moved away from game used. You used to see that. It used to say game used material. They moved from that to player worn or event worn. And literally a lot, take the NFL before COVID, especially, a lot of those cards will say event worn on the back, and they have a rookie day, right? Like basically a rookie convention where they go over, hey, this welcome to the NFL. They literally give them jerseys. They put them on, they wear them for 10 minutes, and they take them off and grab another jersey and put them on and take them off and go forward from that. And then they said, hey, the player wore it. Now collectors are not stupid. They catch on to that and they say, well, it's not really what I'm looking for. So if it says game worn, that's one thing, but event worn or player worn, to me at this point, is it's silly marketing stuff, just a money play.
Definitely. I'm going to get Source fired up here, and I know you're probably both going to have a great discussion on this, but you talked about eBay a fair bit through your content. What are your thoughts on the platform, and what improvements do you think is needed?
So I'm not an eBay fee hater, right? And that's a first point I'll make. I chalk up eBay fees to my marketing costs. To drive that type of traffic to, say, my own independent website would cost me way more money than it does in the eBay fees I pay. So I happily pay those fees. But what drives me crazy about eBay is their buyer protection is so strong and their seller protection is so weak. And as new collectors, and I wouldn't even use the term collectors because I don't think they are collectors. As new people come into the market who are trying to make money, and you get people who are going to try to scam the system, and eBay sides with the buyer 99% of the time, and it makes it very hard for the seller. Now, eBay's recently put in policy where you can't now have buyer's remorse, right? You can't say, oh, I changed my mind, I don't want this, which was a huge problem with the Project 2020 cards. A lot of people got that back, right? But all that's going to do is, if you're a scammer, all you're going to do is then just ruin that card and say item not as described and still send it back. So that's why I accept all returns.
Yeah.
You want to return it, you send it back to me, because I rather get it back intact than some wacky, messed up looking card. eBay's going to side with you anyway. So I might as well let you return it.
Fair enough.
That's my biggest issue with eBay.
Yeah, it's look, it's a tough one. I genuinely think that I get you with the whole fees thing, but I just think the fees that they charge is absolutely criminal. Like, I mean, if you have a look at how much they're actually charging, what, 10% if you don't have a premium account. If you have a premium account, what, I think it drops maybe to 9 or 8.5%. That's that's a lot of fees in the scheme of things. Like, if you have a look at how big eBay are as a company, and they're not just the card sector themselves, they for them to charge that amount of percentage, like, they could easily charge 5%, and they'd be earning more than enough money. But greed obviously gets the best of everyone, especially companies that have shareholders invested, and everything. So I guess that's what they're looking after. But yeah, then look, I still sell on the eBay platform. I just be super sure of what I'm selling, and make sure I'm doing things properly. I've sold, like, a $1,500 card. I didn't mess around. I sent an express shipping. I even insured it and included it all in the price. And that's, give the buyer sort of their assurance, that I'm, have their best interest in terms of, them buying when they're spending that much amount of money on a card. And then on the flip side, I buy and sell a few other things like Pokemon packs. I bought some and sell them, and a few other knickknacks and stuff, a few sneakers and things like that. And it's just like
Nice.
making sure that and most people are good, and it's unfortunate that you do get that 1 to 2% or 3% of people that just understand the guidelines that eBay have set and know how to abuse them. And I think that's you cop one of those sour experiences, and then that ruins it for you. I'm yet to have that experience on eBay. So like, I mean, I do sell there, and the main reason being, it's just the reach that you get is second to none. You're not wrong on that point, Rich. But yeah,
I mean, I
it's
won't argue the fees are high. I mean, they could do a better job with that. And one of the things that excites me about people pumping money into the sports car market is there will eventually be a true competitor to eBay that says we can do it better, we can do it quicker, and we can do it for less money, right? And I think you're going to start seeing more and more platforms for selling pop up, giving people better opportunities to number one branch out from eBay and also pay less fees. I mean that I don't enjoy now they've moved to managed payments, right? Where instead of getting that big invoice at the end of the month, they charge you those fees up front, right? I hate managed payments because I got away from my away from my money. I enjoyed it just going right into my PayPal account, but I don't miss that large invoice at the end of the month, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this. I gotta have
Yeah,
to pay this.
definitely. Definitely. Now, a quick one, just in general, not just eBay. We know it happens on eBay, and this is kind of a tie-in when it comes to uh, grading cards. But Source and I have one frustration. I don't know if you have the same frustration. It is listing. I know we're probably being nitpicking here, but listing of cards. So I'm going to put up a PSA 10, or actually, it's probably not the best example. I'm going to put a PSA 9, and then got the listing of the cards all good. Bracket could be a BGS black, or it could be a PSA. Like, what are your thoughts on that stuff? Us personally, it's like whatever the card's graded, it's graded.
Oh, you
Like,
mean the people who say they put up a raw card and say PSA 10 question mark?
yeah, yeah, or even a graded card that's a PSA 9, and they say PSA 10 or BGS 10 question mark. It's like, well,
Yeah.
for the graded card,
So
yeah.
in 2 words, hate it. And I don't think people realize that they're setting themselves up to fail, right? When I list a card, I don't promise any type of grading. And if someone asks me, I'll say I am not a professional grader. I will list out if I think there's a flaw or imperfection in the card that I can see, and I'll run it through my 40x loop, jeweler's loop, to look at it before I list it. And before I didn't do that, I just eyeballed it. But people now expect perfection in raw card sales, which to me is outrageous, right? That's another issue. But if I'm a seller, my goal is to give you the best description, right? So I'm not going to get that headache or hassle in the back end. Why would you promise even the possibility of that? To me, you open yourselves up to, well, I went to go get a grade and it was a 7. You said not, it could be a 9 or 10. And I guess technically anything could be anything. Could be a dog. It's not. It's a sports call, but maybe when you get it, it's a dog. I don't know, right? But I think you're setting yourself up, and I think it's a little scammy, to do stuff like that. Just like the eBay, what they call eBay 101s, right? Anything. If you're the first person on the market with a card, someone will put eBay 101 just because they couldn't find another listing of it. No, it's
the
not how that works.
I seen one the other day, and I actually shared it on my Instagram, and I was like, I captioned it like this. I was like, even though, like, I took a screenshot of his listing, and in the listing he said, pop 2, right? Meaning this has a pop of 2, right? All good and fine. Like I'm not
Yeah.
fussed if you want to do that in your listing, do it. I then went and looked up the pop report, and it had like a pop of 18, not 2, right? And I screenshot it, I put it side by side, and I put it on my story, and I was like, even though I hate people that do this, if you are going to do this, please don't be this guy. Like, do not say it has a pop of 2, and then you go look at the pop report and it's pop of 18. And someone responded and be like, oh, they may have, it may have had a pop of 2 when they listed it. Well, yeah, that's good and fine, but you can't then just keep relisting it with a pop of 2 because you're actually lying to people. It's false advertising in your listing. So just don't put it there. If they want to know what the pop report is, they can easily go to psa.com/pop and look it up themselves. So,
and there's also an app, the PSA app. You can scan the barcode right from the PSA app, and it tells you the pop report.
There you go. So
there you go.
It's just it baffles me some of the people that do this stuff. So
I send those people notes. There's a big seller. I'm not going to name who it is. I know you guys know who it is. Let's just say he's a boisterous seller, and he may not. He has a staff working for him, so who knows who put it up. I saw a card that he was selling on eBay, and it said something like 101. It was like a Lewis Robert Topps Chrome, and it was, I think, maybe a BGS. Not BGS. I think it was SGC 9.5 or something. I looked at the card. There's no numbering or anything. There's nothing special. It was the base card. And he was selling for like $225. Now, that card without that 101 designation is far from $225. So I sent him a note. And I said, I'm sure this must be a mistake, but can you please explain to me how this is a 101? Maybe I'm missing something, but please, you explain to me how this is a 101. And they came back, oh, it's a listing error. We forgot. And I said, so are you going to change the price? Like, no, the price is right. It's just not a 101. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
Next question to you is because I really do want to touch on what you just said about raw, like the condition of raw cards, and like everyone expects it to be pristine. Now we can talk about that, but I also want to pose the question to you and John and I touched on this in probably a couple podcasts ago about expectation of people in this hobby, but then on the flip side, they're doing the complete opposite. So the expectation is if you don't grade with PSA, then there's no point grading your cards.
Yeah.
The same thing, like you're saying, they expect the raw card to come back. So when they buy it, they can send it and expect to get a PSA 10 or a BGS 10 or a black label automatically.
Yeah.
It's just, what are your thoughts on that? I think we really are becoming our very own society with opinions and the way we push things at the moment in the hobby. What's your take on that? The expectation.
I think honestly, part of that is from certain content creators overhyping the ease of buying raw cards and pulling PSA 9s and 10s, especially ones that are not within the last few years, right? It's not easy to guarantee, especially on those glossy cards. Like, look at the mosaic. I think the mosaics are super hard to grade, right? I don't even send them in for grading. I'll buy them graded, but I won't send them in for grading because it's a headache. Because I feel like if I look hard enough, I'm going to find an issue with it. But I think their expectations are unrealistic because they've listened to the wrong people, and they think it's easy. Of course, so why wouldn't this be a 9 or a 10 or BGS black? I don't think they understand how hard it is to get a BGA black 10 grade. Like, that basically says that card is perfect. I've gotten cards straight from Panini, straight from Topps. You would think those cards, I mean, it's literally coming from their production to me. And I'm like, this card's out of whack. Like, at least it came directly from you, packaged nicely. Why is this corner dinged? Like, did anybody look at this card before they sent it to me? It's just funny, the expectations now. And I think it is. Social media has done great things for the hobby, but it's also done some bad things because certain creators have gotten popular by overhyping the market.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point, Rich. And it's funny, you talk about these new people coming in, and it's about um, them finding, because once you come into this space, right, you're going to want to find content around to inform yourself, which is what I did when I first came to the space. I was like, what podcasts are out there, what Instagram accounts can I follow, and all these sorts of things. And if as you said, if one of these people new coming in, finds the wrong account or finds the wrong content creator that sets these false expectations, these people are going to be set up for failure or set up to,
That's
do this dodgy eBay stuff because they're expecting to get, cards that are, of a mint condition that they're going to be able to grade. Like I say to people, and this is what a big thing when I also give out, I do a segment on our show every week called Saucy Smoky, where I give out a card pick that I just think is good value and that has potential to increase in price for you to either flip one at some stage, or you might like the card and hold it onto it in your PC and it can appreciate in value. And a lot of the time I talk about, especially when I bring up older cards, and I was, a lot of cards that I was bringing up were Kobe rookies, for many weeks before this whole boom of Kobe, I was telling people to buy stuff. And I would say, don't waste your time on a raw card. The card's 20 years old. If you can't afford a PSA 10, that's fine. Buy a PSA 8. Buy a PSA 9. Buy BGS 8. Buy BGS 8.5. Right? Yeah. Because the card is that old that if you go buy a raw card, more than likely the card that you are getting is already a BGS 8 or a BGS 7 or a PSA 7 or a PSA 8 or a PSA 9. Like, it's very, very unlikely that you are going to get a PSA 10. And the PSA 10s that do come out of, those cards that are older are generally people that have literally had it sitting, in a collection, in a folder, and they sort of known what they were doing back then. And a lot of people back then, not like today, weren't opening packs with gloves and having their top loaders and sleeves on tap, ready to put in there, and that's when you look at the pop reports why modern cards gem rate is a lot higher than older cards, because people are doing these things because they understand the comprehension of that the potential increase in value when you grade it. So everyone's looking after the card. So I just think telling people and informing people. And I had actually a friend of mine who called me during the week. He's like, he knows that I do cards, a family friend. And he says, a few months ago, I was looking at cards and I was sending eBay listings to my mate. And we were like, this price of this card's going for this much. And they couldn't believe it. And, he comes to me, he goes, I want to buy some Justin Herbert rookies. I said, yeah, that's good, mate. And long story short, I ended up getting onto a conversation for an hour and a half with this guy, 1 hour and a half, talking about giving the 101 hobby introduction. And he was looking at buying a card. He wanted to buy a really nice auto card of Justin Herbert, and the guy sent through all these photos. It was like a big purchase. It was going to be, nearly about a $2.5K USD purchase. But, he wasn't messing around. He wants to buy the card, put it in his collection, and, he believes in Herbert that it's going to be a great player to come, right? And I was like, that's the way to go about it. Don't mess around, buy the card, and if you're looking for a long game, put it away. Right?
Yep.
And the card that the guy sent through was like a 1 of 19 impeccable half ounce, had the half ounce silver in it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right?
They're cool cards. Yeah.
It's a cool card, right? And I was like, I sent some photos. I said, there's a guy selling this card. I was sort of like his liaise because he didn't really know what he was doing. So I was helping him out, finding his first card that he's going to put in his collection. And, had a bit of a ding on the corner and whatever. And, he goes, how's the condition? And he was always asking me about the condition. I said, look, the condition on the card's pretty good. I said, these cards are really, really thick. And, the guy sent photos and he sort of understood how thick the card was. And the guy actually sent the break that he got it from. It was on YouTube. He won it in a break, right? And I said, look, watch the video break. And you can see that the card is actually damaged coming out of the box. And I don't think he didn't comprehend that. He goes, what? So it can be damaged, like it can have that ding on the corner coming out of the box. I said, yeah, man, like it's, there's no guarantee that even getting it out of a brand new box that it's going to be mint condition. I said,
Absolutely.
it's just not the way it works. It's all cut by machine guillotine and, all these sorts of things. It's very difficult to make those thick stock cards. So, they're more prone to damage. I said, but what you need to look at is the fact that you're buying one of 19. There's only 19
Yeah.
of that card in the whole entire world. I said, don't look
Yeah,
at
so even if you have a ding corner, there's still only 18 other ones out there.
And I said to him, all it takes is one of those 19 to be a good grade and get a 9.5 or a 10 grade. That sells in the future for, Justin Herbert has a good career, and that sells in the future for $100,000, $200,000. Well, you're one of 19 that you've bought for $2,000. There's no way that it's going to be $2,000 anymore. If that graded one's going for $100,000+, your card could be
absolutely.
$20,000. You know what I mean? So I said
Absolutely.
that's what you need to look at, and and these are the information that I think people aren't understanding when they're coming to the hobby, and that's where I say, and bring it back to your point, finding the right content creators that are informing you the ins and outs, not just saying buy all these base cards and grade them. It's all great because I've bought a shitload of base cards, and I'm telling you, out of every 100 base cards that I buy, I reckon only 10 of them are worth grading. So, like, when you have a look at, because if you send everything, you're going to be wasting your money, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just finding the right people, and and we try to help people as much as we can. We tell people, DM us. We put them onto other people that are giving good content, so that they can, immerse themselves in the right people that are going to help them prosper in the hobby.
Yeah.
And yeah, go. Sorry, Rich.
No, go ahead. I was just to say it's funny because the hobby went from a handful of voices to a million voices, right? And it became very hard to. Twitter used to be the spot where you would go for sports card information. Now I'll go there for one or two accounts, but it's become very combative. It's almost like people on Twitter want to leave like nasty comments, right?
Yeah.
Now TikTok is now blown up for sports cards, and that's become a huge spot for content creators. But there's so much noise out there; it's hard to wade through it at times.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I don't know how to phrase this, because you are very, as a content creator, you tell it as it is. You're not like blunt to the point of like you shouldn't. You give advice. You go both sides of stories, and we're the same, and that's what I like. I just think there's so many content creators out there that do a poor job. I'm not trying to knock everyone, because there's a lot of great ones, but
no, I'm not knocking anybody.
The whole thing is like they're scared to actually educate people properly, for the fear of, if we buck the trend, we're going to be like blacklisted and no one's going to follow us anymore. No. That's the whole thing. It's like what John and I always say to people like yourself and other people out there, we're doing this off of our back. We haven't got a producer or a company telling us what we can and can't say. Obviously, there's parameters, and you don't want to cross boundaries and say stupid things, but like we try and keep like social aspect of things in society out of it. We don't like politics.
Oh, yeah.
We're just all about cards. But the whole thing is they're taking that premise of, if I say something bad about the card industry, or say something I don't like, for example, I don't like what Gary Vee says, or I don't like what this breaker says, they'll phrase it to the point where it's like, oh no, what he said is actually good. And they try and, I don't know, support that argument when you're allowed to have an opinion.
Absolutely.
To an extent. So I think you do a great job of that, and there's a lot of other accounts that do that. And that's the whole point of educating people correctly. You can't just just be a yes man or a yes woman for every person out there content creating, or else that's how you get false information pushed around in the hobby.
And I think at some point, so there are a couple of different types of content creators, right? And nobody's right nor wrong. This is not a right or wrong exercise, but There are some content creators out there that are more flippers, right? They've
Yeah.
come from flipping sneakers. Listen, I like sneakers. You know, I got some nice sneakers upstairs as well, but you got the flippers and resellers, right? But then you have the hobbyists, right? They really don't get along too well, and the strategies are completely different too, right? And I don't have hate on either groups. I think, quite frankly, it's a shame that some of the people who have been in the hobby so long hate on these newer collectors, because all I heard over the last decade from people that have been in the hobby for a long time is, where we got to get the kids back into it. We got to get teenagers in it, people in their 20s. We got to get the millennials and Gen X back into it. Now they're back into it and they don't like how they do their things. Instead of saying, okay, well, the market has changed. I've become a better seller from some of the resellers that I've met. Right now, I don't do everything they do. Like, I go to Target or Walmart and I pick up a couple boxes and I either keep them long term or I rip them. I grab a beer and I rip them, and a lot of times I film that. I don't go out and resell them, and I'm not against it. It's just not my thing,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times people ask me where I stand. I had some people DM me. I had some resellers DM me and say, please stop telling people not to buy retail blasters on the secondary market. You're killing us, right? And I said, you have to understand where I'm at. My advice is in the middle, meaning if you are a reseller or flipper and you see a box of 2020 Optic football out there right now, that's a product I'd be searching for right now. You should get it. And if you are a reseller or flipper, you're going to get 3-4x for that box, right? On the flip side, I also tell buyers, don't buy that box for 3 to 4x. There's a reason why it's $20.
Yeah.
People have forgotten the fact that retail is meant to be a mass-produced product, and the odds of you pulling a $2,000 card out of retail, it happens, but not a lot. You mostly see people when they post content. Who wants to just post content and say, "Oh, got a bunch of nonsense again"? Like, quickly,
Exactly
people will
right.
stop. They're like, "I'm not watching that guy. Maybe his bad luck will rub off on me. I'm not watching that clown."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they want to watch the guy pulling a $2,000 card out, right?
Yeah.
So that's all you start seeing. But even these big hits, what I like to do is someone will put out a big hit, and this isn't even not a shot at the people, because someone put a big what did he get? They had a Kobe White booklet or RPA, like it was a beautiful looking card. They pulled out of a product that I think was reselling for between like $500 and $700. And excuse me, people on the original video are like, wow, that's a great hit. Like, it's an awesome card. I like Kobe White. I'm buying Kobe White cards.
Yeah.
But you could have bought that card for $200. And you could have bought it for $200, knowing you're going to get it for $200,
Yeah.
as to buying it for a box for $500-$600 and have no idea what in the world you're going to get. It's a complete gamble.
100%.
So I'm in the middle. I tell people, hey, you see the box, of course, buy them and sell them at 3 to 4x to anybody who's going to buy it from you. But then I also tell people who just want to buy cards, don't buy those cards. It's not worth it.
Completely
So
agree.
quite frankly, I think the complete market has shifted at this point. I don't think we are the market anymore. If you're not a breaker or a local card store, I don't think they're trying to sell to us anymore. They're trying to sell to breakers and local card stores and then make us go through them. And again, that's not a shot at either breakers or local car store.
No.
I probably did 4 breaks not did them, but participated in like 4 breaks. I like doing breaks. They're fun. They're a complete gamble, but they're fun and probably a little addicting, right? But I do think that's where the market is shifting. That's their audience. Me, I'm not their audience anymore. They're not trying to sell to me, because that Dunruss basketball 2020 that's going for what was it going for, like $1,200, was $100 last year, $100 a box last year. So you've priced me out, because I know I'm not going to get $1,200 worth of cards out of that box.
Correct. No, definitely a fair point made there. And like we said, not all content creators. Like, it's not a shot at all. It's just that whole. They're trying to do the best that they can, but it can be very, very misleading. That's the thing for new people coming into the hobby. And I completely agree on what you said, because we actually just had a discussion with one of the hobby stores that we have here in Australia, and they came on our podcast, and we are completely accepting of anyone that's new to the hobby. And I agree with you. We have to literally take and understand the type of people that are coming into the hobby, because things have changed from 30 to 40 years ago. I've been in the hobby, like collecting here and there, but just been around it for probably 20 years, just since I was a kid, like seeing it through some of my family members that are big, big, big collectors. Like, they got some crazy stuff, but
Yeah.
I completely understand. It's completely changed. You can't 1 minute say, oh, we need to get the young kids in and we need to grow again and get put on the map. And then when it happens, and I think it's because it's happened so quickly. It just
Yes.
happens so quickly. And like the hobbyists, the pure ones that have been around for so long and they're still going about their way, like the old school style, just like, oh no, this is ridiculous, because they can't get a hold of the product that they could have 10 years. And I understand, but everyone needs to understand that we're all in the same boat. Unless you're a breaker that's got a really good connection out there that can get you the product, we're all in the same boat. I completely agree with you. If instead of buying that $600 box and pulling that Kobe White, they could have just gone and bought it for $200, saved $400, and potentially put that $400 into buying more cards that they needed for their PC. Potentially, so that $600 could have bought them 5 or 6 cards.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see that one guy, like my buddy Ed. I have a couple of friends that I collect with, and my buddy Ed, he bought a case of Obsidian football, and he pulled the other day, first off the line, and he pulled the other day a 1 of 4, not 1 of 40, but numbered out of 40 Herbert RPA, multi. I mean, that's a huge card, right?
Yeah.
And he had opened multiple boxes and sold some boxes as well, but he happened to keep the one that had probably the best card in the case, and that was just pure luck.
It is luck.
So if I'm a person and I see that video and I see that Herbert getting pulled, guess what I'm doing? I'm thinking, wow, Obsidian's a good product to snag. I'm gonna grab that.
Exactly right. Couldn't agree more.
Your chances, and I'll just bring it like this: your chances of getting big in retail, I mean, even hobby, it's tough at time. Is just about as likely as you are to hit the jackpot on the poker machines. So
it's a lottery ticket.
Just
it's a lottery
think about
ticket.
that.
Yeah, legitimately. Yeah. Next up, we've got a grading question for you. It is the most popular part of the hobby. It is the be-all and end-all pretty much for a lot of collectors, but it's also becoming very quickly one of the most divisive parts of the hobby when it comes to arguments and chats and discussion around it. What's your thought on the grading companies? And first of all, do you vary your grading across the board, or are you just someone that goes PSA and that's it? So, yeah, what's your thoughts on those companies?
So I think, I mean, I'd be lying if I said, hold on 1 second. I just gotta look at, hopefully you can cut this out. Okay. PSA is still the big dog, right? It's the best ROI. I like PSA. I like BGS. SGC, I like more for vintage cards. I think they all carry weight, but PSA is still the big dog out there. Now, I recently, like I just said to you guys, I interviewed HGA. There's CSG, I believe. Is CSG or CGS? CGS out there as well. Now, I wouldn't discount any of those guys. Anybody who's been out there for a while and haven't really gotten a bunch of steam, like a GMA, and I'm not taking a shot at GMA, but it is what it is. You know, they don't carry a ton of weight and with new companies coming out, I think those fringe companies are probably going to get hit the hardest. But right now, PSA is still the big dog, but I'm not sending the PSA because I'd like to see my card sometime this century. So until they fix that, I'll buy PSA graded cards, but I'm not sending. I'm actually going to try to get some cards out today to HGA.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. We did watch Sipping and Ripping with Tyler. It was very informative, and it's great to have new companies coming onto the scene. The only concern that John and I have with them all is maybe you agree with us, maybe you don't. I'm glad to hear your take on this, but PSA has been built up, whether it's through the way they've marketed and they've got people like Kendrick Perkins coming out and saying things that if it ain't PSA, don't bring it our way, like comments like that. But we just cannot understand and cannot fathom how PSA has become this juggernaut when we look at a lot of things that they do, and it's literally, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, we are literally pumping up mediocrity in the hobby to an extent.
Yeah.
No 9.5, no subgrades. Without a 9.5 means it can swing either way.
Yeah.
A card. The times are absolutely dreadful. They've made, funnily enough, when they talked about turnaround times for PSA, when was it? In November, John was actually talking about it 2 months prior, and we spoke about it. Just like, you got to wake up. Don't send to them because the backlog is going to get bigger. And everyone said, there's no issue. There's no issue. And the problem is there's no issue till you realize there's an issue, and then it's too late. And then there's 2 million cards. Now, Nat Turner said that his number one priority at PSA since the takeover is going to be to get rid of that backlog, to reduce it significantly. Now, I don't understand how they're going to do this in terms of, maybe they were waiting for this takeover before they made any significant changes. I know that they've just put an express feature in for their cards. I didn't really look into it, but it's just an express submission. But I just want to hear your take. How is it taken? I don't know if it's BGS because they've had fake slab issues or whatever it is. How BGS, that's got subgrades, they've got more history in the hobby. You can literally see through a subgrade why your card got the grading, but we're happy to settle for PSA that's a 9 or a 10, no 9.5, and you can't even see why your card got that grade.
No, I'm sure some of it comes down to marketing. And the general market, the market is fickle. I mean, when I talked about HGA, people are like, what do you think about it? If I have Patrick Mahomes, somebody asked me, if I have Patrick Mahomes rookie, should I send it to HGA? I'm like, I can't endorse that right now. You should probably send it to PSA or BGS because that's where you're going to get your biggest return. I don't know what the market will do at HGA, right? They could love it or they can nitpick it. Like when I did the video about it, people were like, that's centering. How that can't be a 9.5 centering. That's a 9 at best. Like, it's amazing how you can tell from my 15-second video of the card. Like, if you're that good at telling the centering that quickly, you should be knocking on PSA's door and saying, hey, I need a job and you need to hire me right now. I get requests all the time from people to ask me, hey, can I send you a card, picture of a card, and can you tell me the general grade? And I said, I can't. I'm not a professional grader. I have my little pre-grading process, but I'm not a professional grader. And I certainly can't tell you with any level of accuracy that I feel good about myself doing about that card, whether it will grade. Now, if it's completely banged up, of course, but they're not going to send me that. They're going to send me something that's probably a 9 or 9.5 or a 10 and want me to tell them what is it going to grade. I can't do that. I mean, I don't believe anybody really can do that, right? Not without the card being physically in your hand. I think a lot of it comes down to PSAs out there. They're marketed correctly. The right money was put behind them. Beckett, like you said, at one point, that was where you went. They had the book, the pricing guide. They were the ones that are well known. You know, PSA also got big into the PSA DNA, the autograph authentication. That pushed them up there. But personally, I like BGS better than PSA, but for the same reasons you're saying. But I know from a return on investment that PSA is going to bring me back to more money.
I think
which is weird.
Yeah, I think that's just become the be all and end all when it comes to the grading now. The fact that the ROI is so high on a PSA compared to anyone else, it's just like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, I saw somebody put a video out, and if anybody's listening and watching this, I do not condone this stuff. This is not something I would do. But this is what we're talking about, grading and I say borderline scamming is people buying PSA 6s of cards, getting them and cracking them, and then selling them raw. If they're seeing that the raw cards are worth more than the PSA 6.
Yeah.
To me, that is so, like, it's dishonorable business practice. Like, you're selling somebody something under, to me, false pretense, because the person is hoping it's going to be a 9, especially in today's market.
Yeah.
So to crack a 5 or a 6 and to sell it raw because you're going to make money on it, I mean, I hate that kind of stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen a video on it. Some guy saying that this is one of his like plays that he does, and I'm just like,
we probably saw the same video,
mate. I'm like, mate, you're a lemon. Like, it's annoying that fact that people crack cards already. And I think this is where I genuinely think this is where, if HGA gets this right, Rich, and the fact that they can give your card the same grade every time. Well, if you crack it, if you get a 9 and you crack it and you send it back, technically you should get a 9 in it. Right?
Absolutely.
And if that's the case, then it will stop this shit of people cracking 9s, cracking 8s, cracking 8.5s and sending it back and continually just cracking and resending
I hate it.
until they get a 10. Right? Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen a guy crack and resend the same card 3 times, and after the third time, he got a 10. Right?
Now, was that with PSA?
That was with PSA.
Yeah.
Right?
PSA, I mean, I have no factual, only anecdotal. Everybody in the card market knows PSA grades the easiest out of the companies. They do. If you want a PSA 10, when I was talking to HGA, we joked about it. He said, I think his 10 rate is like 4%.
Yeah.
BGS, I forget, was higher, but say maybe like 10% or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said PSA was 600%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you want a 10, send a PSA. And it's funny because a lot of people said, a lot of comments I got about HGA, like, well, if they're using computers to do it, won't that mean it'll be harder for me to get a 10? I said, I hope so.
That's the point of the hobby. That's a perfect.
Yeah. Like, who wants every card to be a 10? I get it. It's nice to get a 10. But if they're all 10s, then 10 doesn't mean anything anymore.
That's correct. Exactly right. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We try to stress this point for so long. Like, a 10 is meant for the perfect card. If your card is not centered 50-50, it's not perfect. Yes. That's instantly, all right, that's fine. It might not be perfectly centered. Everything else on the card might be great. Well, that's why there's 0.5 grades. And I just try to tell people about PSA. The fact that they do not have a 9.5, what does that tell you about the company? It tells me about that they're sort of crook. They're scamming people themselves by not having that 0.5 grade. They've got an 8.5, but they don't have a 9.5. So, it just doesn't make sense. And I try to tell people that, and the fact of the matter is, and once again, it just comes back down to the ROI, and people are like, well, but I can get more selling my PSA 10. Oh, man. But what happens, they PSA bought out their quarterly summary back in November, and they had a line in there, and I could even bring up the article and read it to you. But it said something along the lines like, we will be expanding and looking to add robotic automatization to our grading process.
I remember I did a video on that, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to me, that sounds like you're going to get some sort of AI to help in the process of grading. Now, if I'm thinking that, I'm going, well, if they go down the road of AI, and we've now heard with Tyler out of HGA coming on and saying, his 10 rate's like 4%. That would, if they started grading with an AI intelligence, artificial intelligence, they're now market tens that are on the market now will take a significant hit to value, because technically, if they start doing that and it's harder to get their tens with the AI, then they'll have to create like another variation of the slab to say that these ones were graded by a computer and not a human, and then their current tens are then devalued somewhat because they're not
You're right.
graded by a computer. And it's the perception that new people are now going to have, and Dom can confirm this, but he had someone message him when they first seen HGA and be like, what's this HGA? I've never seen them before. And Dom goes, oh, they're a new grading company on the scene, and they grade using computers and artificial intelligence. And their first thought, and this is a person that's only been in the hobby, 12 months, right? So they're fresh. And their first thought was like, well, isn't that better? Isn't that better that it's graded by a computer?
That's the first thing that was said to me. That's way better. Getting rid of some of the human element out of it. Mm-hmm. It's way better. And the thing is that people in the hobby need to understand, like, they're doing it to themselves, but then they're not understanding that they're doing it. Like John's saying, when this AI does come out and it is going to devalue the tens prior, like the PSA.
I agree with that. I agree with that's a good way to think of it.
Yeah, and they keep saying, oh, that's not going to happen. And then I'll pose the question to the person that's arguing that, how do you value old PSA slabs to new PSA slabs? Oh, the old ones are rubbish. Well, you just answered your question. What do you reckon?
Yep.
The 9s and 10s now in the new PSA slab, well, any card in the new PSA slab, once the AI comes out, all of them become devalued because the new slab is this. So the same thing happens again. This is why they keep digging themselves in a hole, but they're not realizing that they're doing it. That's
like all you need is a content creator with a bunch of money who's willing to crack a bunch of PSA 10s and resubmit them to PSA once they move to AI grading, and they come back and they're not all PSA 10s when they come back. That's all it would take to kill that market. The right content creator doing that with the right following and saying, look, those old PSA 10s, they're not really 10s. Like 40% of them came back under not 10s, or I wouldn't be shocked if more of them didn't come back as not 10s.
Yeah, I've been thinking about just picking up some cheap PSA 10s, whatever it may be, vet stuff, and just getting a little collection of them, 5 or 10 of them, and and just to prove to people that what their grading standards are so mediocre, it's beyond a joke. And cracking them and sending them to HGA and be like, do a video about it, and be like, all right, let's see, this is the be all and end all company. Let's see what a company that has invested $2 million into artificial intelligence grading, let's see what they give it, right? And if this comes back, you send in 10, and only 3 of those comes back a 10 in thing, and you get some ridiculous grades like an 8.5 or an 8, it will open people's eyes that what PSA are doing is so mediocre in terms of grading standards.
Absolutely.
The next question we got for you is from Vegas Dave. Not from Vegas Dave. It was about what Vegas Dave said.
I was like, you guys talking to Vegas Dave?
We gave him the Le Mans of the week on our podcast. I don't think he'd want to talk to us at the moment. But what are your thoughts on his comments in terms of it's going to come to an ugly end for us all in this hobby, pretty much?
So I did a TikTok video on it, and I was gentle, I think, because I do respect that this guy has major coin and can just throw around $400,000 to buy a Mike Trout rookie and then sells it for $4-point-something million. I mean, that's a big baller move, but he's also the guy that did a video of a table full of Derek Carr rookies and said, this is the guy you got to buy.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to fully trust him, and understand. And he's also a gambler.
Correct.
So I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about him, but I do have to personally question full motivation to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the end game there? And someone told me he just put out another video about sports cards that I don't know if think was even a negative one. So, like, to me, he's a sports gambler making a wild prediction, and maybe if the market dips, because he certainly has a following and an influence, you could almost like jump in and buy on the low. Like, that's why it's a lot of people. I don't mind when, and I'll do tips here and there. I think people want content creators to say, "Hey, this is who I'm buying." They like that information. They want you to kind of say, "Hey, this is who I'm buying, and this is why." I think that kind of content is great when it comes with no strings attached. Meaning, I'm not telling you to buy this card because I already bought 100 of them. And
Yeah.
I have a huge following, and when they spike up, I'm going to dump and walk away. And without naming names of people who do that, because I'd rather not get sued, they definitely exist out there, right? But a guy like Gary Vee, and I like Gary Vee, a guy like Gary Vee, this is really a hobby for him. I mean, he's the same guy also going out getting mugs and selling them for, buying a 50-cent mug and selling it for $3. He didn't need that money. I think it's just like a thrill type of thing, and he enjoys doing it. He didn't make his millions of dollars from gambling or sports cards. It's like a hobby that he says, "Hey, you can make money doing this." So you have him on the one side saying that we haven't even seen the pinnacle of the hobby yet. The Vegas Dave saying sell out everything about the top 1% of cards within the next year. I think it's the real answer somewhere in the middle. I think the market's going to continue to grow. I do think there are some things that are overpriced. When I used to pull a base rookie card of a player, that went into my rookie box, and I forgot about it because I don't care about the base rookie. I want the one of something or the autograph or so forth. All of a sudden, like, what is this base rookie going for? Like, I think the base rookie market is way overpriced. I think a lot of products are way overhyped. You look at the NBA hoops, the premium stock was cool. I mean, how much more is Panini going to milk the 1920 draft class? But premium stock was cool.
Zion's going to be a rookie for the rest of his career, the way they
it makes me feel that they don't have a lot of confidence in the 2020-2021 class. But the NBA Hoops product just dropped. And, of course, LaMelo Ball has been playing well. Somebody bought a Jenk Jay's cards, put the video out first. Someone bought a LaMelo base, not numbered and not hollow base for $200 and some.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, we got a friend of ours who put the card up on auction. So he didn't put a buy it now price. He put it on auction. He goes, I'm going to test it. Well, why wouldn't I? He goes, I don't want the card. So he put it on auction. So he didn't set any price. So he's not trying to scam anyone. And it's been bidded up. It had 22 hours left or 12 hours. And it was bidded up to $155 for the card. Now,
that's like a $25, $25 to a $50 card max.
In 2 months, 3 months, you'll be buying that card for $15.
Yeah.
So now he's like, well, I'm going to take that. Why wouldn't I? Well, fair enough. You put it for auction. If you put it for buy it now at 200 and someone bought it, I can't understand. But he put it as an auction. So people
push the price up.
Yeah, and he said people genuinely think that's the value of LaMelo. Well, yeah, he might win Rookie of the Year, but
not his NBA. So Luka Doncic's 2018 NBA Hoops card goes for $80. Why would LaMelo's Balls rookie go for $200? Like, people don't. Sometimes I think they react without thinking. It doesn't make any sense. Like, people are showing me when Prism Draft Picks came out. They're like, "Oh, look at the LaMelo Ball silver," and it's sold for something crazy. Like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And then I went back and I looked at the Zion silver.
Yeah.
and Zion had more hype than LaMelo, and it
100%.
was like an $80 to $100 card. So if his card is an $80 to $100 card, how do you think that card could be justifiable $400? It can't. It just cannot be.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree. A few other things that have become, well, an eye opener during the week was I'm not sure if you caught Ken Golden's IGTV where he had Gary Vee come in and Rizzo Sports also came in and they had a discussion. But it was just a few remarks that Ken made, like to point out to people in the hobby that where it's trending and why cards are selling for so much. And it was an eye opener for us. I know people are like, oh, these are cool, like it's selling for $1 million a card. But we're looking at it as a hobby point of view because we want people to be able to collect. So
Yes.
the reason that these things, the fact that these things are gone for so much, it's going to put it more out of reach for a lot of people unless they got money. So Ken made a comment that he's got athletes and billionaires coming in and people with like that run hedge funds and just investment bankers and all these people they've got real money are coming into the hobby and asking him to source cards for them. Some players just want to collect themselves, so they're asking for their own rookie cards. I don't know who these players are, but they're having a good bet on themselves that they're that good.
Yeah, that's great.
He was literally saying that they don't care about, they're not as refined as us in the hobby. Like they don't care about what they spend. They are more willing to have the clout saying that I was the one that bought the $738,000 Jordan.
Yeah.
I own that. It's not like, oh, damn, I overpaid for this bloody thing, but I got the money, I can afford it. You know what I mean? Because I'm on
Like, who cares?
Yeah, they're like, we want to buy it for that much for the fact that we are the only whatever that have this card at that price. We own that till the next person trumps them. So the problem with that is, as you know, big money like that makes it big problems for everyone else. Big fish can eat, and the little fish are just going to struggle. We haven't got billions of dollars to just go, I wish. So,
well, at what point does the hobby become impossible for the regular collector? You know, and that's to your point. I think that's my biggest concern. You know, people want the hobby to continue to go up, up, and up. Again, I think we're going to continue to see a rise, but a correction at some point. But we've already seen hobby boxes go up 5x from last year. You know, the retail resale market didn't exist. People can't, they don't understand that. When I tell them, like in 2018, basketball products before Luka and Zion hit, basketball products sat in America. Like no one cared. No one collected basketball really. Football was more popular than basketball. But everybody collected baseball. Baseball was still the number one.
yeah.
And that flipped. And what made that flip was the new collectors. The new younger collectors, they don't watch baseball. You know, they watch football and basketball. So that flipped the market. But I left probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the shelves during that time frame because when I used to buy retail back then, I bought it just for fun. Like I'm away home from work, family and I aren't doing anything. I'm not going out with my buddies or anything. So I'm like, I'll stop at Target, Walmart, grab a couple boxes of retail and just go home and rip it and have a couple beers or something, right? I never thought that this box would be worth more than, I'm like, this is a $20 box. I'm probably not gonna get anything. If I get a $30 card out of this, I'll be ecstatic, you know? No one thought that, and you go back, I haven't found one person that can legitimately say that they predicted that in 2020, the retail boom of the product would happen. My buddies that were collectors used to tease me and say, why do you buy that junk? Just, you know, instead of buying like 30 blasters a month to rip, save your money and buy like 3 hobby boxes, you know, and like, because I wanted then, I just like to rip for fun.
Yeah.
I know I'm not getting my money back. It's just fun. Now forget about it. I can't go do that. You know, I can't buy a couple hobby boxes a month. It's just too expensive.
It's just become
It's
ridiculous.
the whole point why we're supposed to be able to have retail product, Rich, to allow the average Joe to get in at some level. But obviously that's been ruined due to inflation on prices and demand for product. People clearing out shelves and reselling it as their prime objective. Sneaker guys now creating literally bots. Like you've got bots for sneaker websites now, bots for Target, Walmart.
Absolutely.
All these other online retailers to snap up any stock that comes online instantly, and then resell it. So it's and then you've got on the other spectrum you've got the breakers who then when this product does inflate are happy to buy the product at inflated prices and then obviously charge their little bit of margins on top and put it in a break, and then they're still able to fill these breaks because breakers are going gangbusters at the moment. And that's where the whole trickle down effect of the hobby, and inflation is now just not even at the pinnacle part where you've got these cards selling for record prices where we began this conversation, but now at the $20 blaster that you used to be able to pick up from Walmart. And here in Australia, it's I think usually our blasters are 40 Australian dollars, so they're a bit more pricier down here when they come to retail. But I was lucky enough to get onto the site when they had the pre-orders on, and I picked myself up 15 Prism blasters.
Nice.
And I was just like, it doesn't make sense. And before I would sell it for, buy it for 40 and sell it for 75 and make a bit of money. And, maybe I sell 7 or 8 of them and rip the rest of them so that, I'm not losing out on all my money. But now it doesn't make sense. Now it's like, oh, I'll rip 5 now. I'll hold on to 10. And, maybe in 4 or 5 months or when the new season comes around and, Herbert's back playing and then Tua's back playing, that box that I paid 40 could be 200. Then I'll sell it then, and then I'll sell 6 of them and then rip the other 4 that I've still got.
The last question we have for you is the best or favorite card pickup for 2020 for last year.
My favorite card that I picked up, ripped or bought?
Either.
Huh. You can do both if you like.
You can go both.
Yeah, that's a good question. Trying to think. I bought one of my favorite cards as a kid. The first card that I saved up for as a kid was a 1955 Bowman Hank Aaron, which was his first Bowman card. I picked one of them up, and not even for value or for anything like that. It's just because, again, I'm collector first.
Nostalgia factor.
Yeah, reseller second, and that probably would be my favorite card because then I picked up another one. I want to now continue to expand that Aaron personal collection, or PC, if you will, so I can continue to get every year of his card. His true rookie, of course, is very expensive, so at some point maybe I can get that. But that's the collection I'm going for. And right now I have a series I'm doing on TikTok. When my dad passed away in 2012, and my mom moved in with my aunt and uncle. And when she moved in there, my aunt mistook my sports cards for trash, right? And she tossed them. And I can't express what cards I had in there. Like, some of them worth a couple bucks, and that's where I started the series, buying the cards that are worth a couple bucks.
Yeah.
All the way up to the cards that had a mantle in there. Like, not as rookie, but like a third year mantle. I had cards in there that I don't know if I could rebuy, quite frankly, right? But I'm gonna try, and that's part of my 2021, my newest series, 2021, is try to basically rebuy those cards, and everyone that I can remember. So I'm starting with, I don't know if I have it near me, I don't, but I'm starting with some of the cheaper. I don't have it in front of me. I'm starting with some of the cheaper cards, like the Frank Thomas #1 draft pick, card, like the cards that are worth a couple bucks, and working my way up. I had those LeBron James, the rookie cards. I had so many of them in there because they weren't at that time. The market wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And people are like, "Oh, did you ever say anything to your aunt?" I said, "No," because like I don't want to make her feel bad. Like she didn't do it on purpose.
definitely.
She was helping my mom out. And she accidentally threw it away. And one day I just was like, "Oh, I'll go get those cards and go through them. I'll send some for grading." And she goes, "Oh, I got rid of all of them, along with boxes and boxes of vintage comics too, by the way."
Oh.
Which is another
painful
thing. But hey, there are worse things, right?
Exactly.
But now it's just giving me another goal,
That's good.
It gives me an
More
opportunity
content.
to push. Yeah, it gives me an opportunity to push the both sides of the collector side and the seller side of establishing that collection. So
very nice. Perfect. Well, thank you once again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
We'll definitely get you on again at some stage and have further discussion about what's happening in the hobby. But as for us, keep living, loving, and breathing all sports. Double coverage has been Dom with your man Saucy and Rich, aka the Happy Collector. Thank you so much. We'll tag you and put all your socials in the bio. So
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
Rich. Peace out, ladies and gents.
Peace out.
Hey.
Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave a review on the Apple Podcasting app. Also, follow us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Talking all sports. Double curve.